I'm Mike Padilla. I've lived my entire life in the city of Topeka, and I've seen Topeka ebb and flow with the economy. I've seen it grow, I've seen it go through tough times, and I've seen it sustain through those tough times. I have been working and serving the city for my entire life, adult life in my careers, and I want to continue to do that. That's why I ran for council. I feel very proud of the work that I've been able to bring to the city, working along with my fellow council members, that we have become a real team for positive change in the city of Topeka. And I ask for your vote on August 3rd and November the 2nd.
Do you believe increasing access to affordable housing for families making less than $40,000 a year should be part of the city's approach to economic development?
I do. In fact, one of the things that I have prioritized in my campaign is affordable housing. Looking at affordable housing means a lot of different things to people. In my first year, I visited with the Realtors Association, and that was a concern of theirs, of having the availability of that affordable housing and what it meant. For some people, $100,000 is affordable. For others, that's way out of line. For some, $250,000 is affordable. So we have to see what the community is lacking in its neighborhoods. And I think it's a concern because without those solid neighborhoods, families will not feel like they have a part of this community. And so affordable housing is extremely important. I think the city can be a lead, can be the facilitator for a lot of that. I believe that many of the private contractors sometimes struggle with seeing that importance for our community because they see it from a business side. We see it from a government side, which looks at everything that comes to that affordable housing complex problem. It affects children, it affects the way our population grows or doesn't grow. It affects what businesses come to our community based on the number of people that live here. So that affects our population and our census impact for those things that we rely upon to help pay for our basic services. But I think Topeka has made a good start in that direction. The Housing Trust Fund that we've established within the city through the acts of the council is a first step. But to make that Housing Trust Fund really grow and be effective, we have to have private support for that.
How would you work to rebuild trust between members of the public and members of law enforcement in our community?
You know, that question, the way you ask it is, how would I rebuild trust? I think this community has a lot of trust in its Topeka Police Department. I really do. That doesn't mean that we don't have to continually work at reinforcing that trust and showing the public what we as a community expect from our law enforcement agencies. And I say agencies because Topeka Police Department gets the most attention, but Shawnee County Sheriff's Office has deputies that work within the county, and we are within the county. So along with them, Capital City Police, the Highway Patrol, who has a presence here in the city of Topeka, all of those law enforcement agencies work hard to be unique in their own way, but at the same time give the overall service to the community that really breeds public safety. And to say that we would need to reinforce it is more accurate, I think, than anything.
How do you plan on keeping young people in Topeka? How do you plan on keeping people in general in Topeka? Okay,
well, that's been a problem since I can remember as a police officer back in 1970. There's always that draw from our community for good, talented people. They see opportunities in nearby communities, or it's to be expected that young people often look to other cities for the larger number of opportunities that may be present that aren't present in Topeka. I think the way we continue to try and draw people to Topeka and to keep those who are here is to involve them in every part of the activities of the city of Topeka. You know, students have their scholastic goals and achievements that they work towards. Some of them really get involved beyond that in their extracurricular activities, and so they see the community in a different way. And I think every time we can present to the young people, students, and through groups like Forge, those opportunities that are here, and then also at the same time identify what they believe are the things that are missing in Topeka, and then not say, okay, well, I think you need this so that we can keep you here. We need to ask, what would keep you here? What development, either economically or through social activities or recreational activities, housing, what would keep you here? What would satisfy your needs?
Topeka, and especially where my businesses are located, has a large population of homeless. As a city, we only have one place for those in need to get resources, and in order to get those resources, you must be free of all substances. What do you plan to do to help the people living on the street that are battling addiction and are not able to get help in our county?
Well, that's a complicated question, because for a long time we've had underserved people, homeless, unsheltered, however you want to describe them, in our community. I think key to what we need to do is, as much as possible, coordinate all those resources so that there's not a duplication of effort and maybe a better distribution of the resources and the funds available to provide these opportunities for the homeless. And what we are hoping to do is to identify those individuals, and it could be out of a group of 30, it might be just half of them who are willing to take part, but half is better than nothing, who we would contact and say, look, if we can give you a job for half a day, 4 hours a day, and you'll get paid at the end of the day, and you can join that program, and while you're in that program, you'll take part of the services that are provided through what they call MAP, Mobile Assistance Program, that Topeka Rescue Mission has, and you'll have cleaning facilities because they have a mobile cleaning unit. They have shower facilities. They have mobile shower facilities. They will put you into the services and connections for mental health needs or medical needs by utilizing the resources of Vallejo, and outreach programs. If you participate in all those and we help you move from that homeless situation, would you be interested in participating? Some have responded yes, and some are short-term in that they would like to do it long enough to get themselves situated and maybe go to where they want to go. Often they want to go back home, but just didn't have the means to do it.
The USDA defines food deserts in urban areas as census tracts where much of the population consists of low-income residents and most people live more than 1 mile from a grocery store. Under this definition, the USDA has determined that much of North, Downtown, and East Topeka are food deserts. How will you work to ensure every Topekan of every income has access to nearby and convenient grocery stores?
That's a good question, and I understand the need for that distribution of grocery stores, because I personally was affected by a closing of a couple stores in my neighborhood that made it inconvenient to shop on a regular basis. And I know one in particular in the central part of Topeka, when it closed, it really did affect a huge neighborhood there that shopped there. And a lot of it was neighborhood family walk-ins grocery shopping. I mean, it was essential to that area. East Topeka has the same problem. I think what has to happen for me, in my mind, and I'm open to other ideas, is that we maybe need to rethink what we think of as a grocery store. What are our essential needs? I think fresh produce and all the meats and dairy and all those good things that are healthy for us are very important. And the big grocery store sometimes just doesn't fit in a neighborhood. I think about my experiences when I go to the East Coast and you see what they call bodegas. And they provide in their neighborhoods within a square city block, you might have 2 or 3 bodegas there, and they're all kind of individualized, but at the same time, they all provide basic needs for that neighborhood and that community, so people can drive and or most likely walk there when they're so condensed like that to get those basic needs that I just mentioned. And I think that maybe that's what we need to think about, that finding the big space for a big box grocery store may not be what's needed most by that neighborhood. I think that a real effort to utilize, in some cases, I think, some of the vacant buildings that we have located in East, North, and Central Topeka that could be converted into a smaller sized grocery store are things that we need to look at with regards to viability and see how it could be supported. You know, I look at some of the things. I know that we have a very active farmers market here in Topeka, and my question to myself often is, what happens on the days that the market isn't in place? What happens to all those goods that don't get sold in that farmers market weekend or during the week? And some way, it seems to me, there should be a way to work with every vendor there to say, we've established a location in this neighborhood that if you bring your products there, you can sell them there, and you'll be able to increase your income because you're selling your product. You'll be able to provide to that neighborhood all that fresh produce that they desperately need.
Another question, like how do they plan to not only prioritize and hear, but amplify the voices of the community to actually know what that community wants?
And I think it has to be intentional. And everybody does it in a different way. We've got 9 city council people, and they do their intentional work in the way that they feel most comfortable with. But I think as a body, as a governing body, there has to be a drive by a mayor and the council to actually hear the voices intentionally and act on them. It's not enough to hear the voice. You have to act on what is being said. And that doesn't mean that you do everything that's being asked, because I don't think that's possible. But you have to be practical. And those things that could immediately impact people, I think you have to have those voices there. I look around at a number of things that I go to, not just because I sit on the council, but when I was a police officer, that was one thing that I noted an awful lot of times. That being a police officer gave me an opportunity to speak to people that ordinarily I probably would not have had the chance to speak to, because police officers themselves aren't always asked to an economic development conversation, to those conversations that work around education, mental health providers, and a lot of other things. That seems to be outside of what police officers are expected to be involved with. So as a person and as a police officer, I expanded my circle of interest and relationships with all those other things that I just mentioned, so that I could be a better person and a better police officer. But they gave me an opportunity to meet a lot of people that way. And I think that's an intentional thing I did, and I think it's an intentional thing our governing body should continue to do, to involve as many people who may not otherwise get an invitation to visit with the business owners or corporate executives. I know that sounds far-fetched, but you'd be surprised how much you can learn from people who have not had a chance to sit down and understand what's going on in this community. Once they understand, then they often have good ideas and suggestions. But until you get them to that point where they feel that they're comfortable, they're being asked to come to the table, they're being listened to, and they're being given a level of respect so that they know that their voices carry some weight, that we're not just giving the time away so that we can say we've done it, we have to be accountable for what we decide to do when we've invited them to the table.
What are your goals to help further student life here at Washburn? What are your goals to help improve the university?
Topeka is very fortunate to have Washburn University here. I mean, it's recognized for a number of its programs. Since I've grown up here, I've seen the development of the campus and the university over the years. I can remember when that tornado came through and what it made that campus look like, and the feeling of what do we do now? And that feeling left very quickly because this community got busy, the university got busy, and immediately they started to rebuild. And they have rebuilt the university and the campus to something that we should all be very proud of. And that rebuilding continues to this day with the groundbreaking for the new law school. I think student life is very active at the university. Being able to listen to the programs that are available. I currently am fortunate enough to sit on the Board of Regents with the Washburn University, so I know that the administration and the professors and everybody involved with the students there are committed to giving quality education and really maybe not directly saying it out loud, but really working hard to keep those hard-working, intelligent people here in Topeka to make our city better. I think the more that we see that and recognize that, the more we give internship possibilities to those students, the more that they can directly involve themselves with the business side of Topeka by the nonprofit organizations in Topeka, by those service providers in Topeka. The more the students see that, the more they see of their community, the more that they go beyond the borders of the campus. And I think that's extremely important. Student activism is necessary because that means they're looking for solutions. They're looking to how to make things better. And all they need is somebody to give them that opportunity. And I think being able to engage that student body on a regular basis is so important to the growth of this community. I'm Mike Padilla. I currently serve as the District 5 council member sitting on the council. I am also running for mayor in the upcoming election. On August 8th, we have a primary, and then on November the 2nd, we have the general election.